Loch Lomond Lotto. Play for a chance to win our monthly cash jackpot amongst other prizes. By entering, you're directly supporting Loch Lomond TV, our community-led media platform, and helping to fund local good causes. Each draw gives you the chance to win while giving back to the local community. For more information, visit our website, lochlomondtv.com, or follow us on social media at Loch Lomond TV.
So welcome to this episode of Real People, and I'm going to be talking to Caroline from Lomond and Argyll Advocacy. Caroline, welcome.
Thank you.
What is that? What is advocacy for a start?
Advocacy is, it's a service provided to, well, we work with people over 16, so vulnerable adults. They might be vulnerable because of mental health issues, learning disabilities, or older people that may be starting to experience memory loss, etc. They're vulnerable because of decline in their physical or mental health. Okay. So we would get involved with someone, and our job is to hear what their wishes are. So for example, a common issue that we get asked to get involved in is somebody who's maybe living alone and they're not coping as well as they would normally cope, and their health's declining. And there's talk about maybe going into a care home or getting a care package into
so it's a tipping point situation.
Sometimes it can be crisis. Sometimes it's planned. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how do those people come to your attention?
We get referrals from social work, from health professionals, from other professionals in the community, from community groups, from the individual themselves.
Yeah, anybody can refer. Well.
Members of family, yeah. Okay. Anybody can refer to us.
Okay. And you cover a big area.
We do. In West Dunbartonshire, we cover from the other end of Clydebank through to Helensburgh, up as far as just the other side of Argyll.
Okay. Obviously, Argyll and Bute is the thing as well.
Yeah, we have a team in Argyll and Bute. We cover Argyll and Bute and West Dunbartonshire. Okay. It just makes geographically, it makes sense for us to cover Helensburgh rather than people come down from Lochgilphead. I
think Helensburgh and Cardiff used to be in Dunbartonshire at one time. Yeah, so you get involved with people who have issues which are probably out of their control a lot of times. What do you do for them?
Well, we will go in and we will listen to what they say. We will support them by giving them information so that they can make an informed decision that's right for them. Right. And then we will support them at various meetings they may have to attend, or if they don't feel able to attend, because it's very intimidating walking into a room and there's maybe a dozen professionals around that table, and there's only you. So some clients would ask us to go to the meeting on their behalf. We would support people through a tribunal, so that's basically if somebody's detained under the Mental Health Act, they have a right to appeal. So we would organise a solicitor for them and ensure that their named person knows their rights so that they can get a solicitor as well. And we would just basically walk that journey through that process with them. And if they want to speak at the tribunal, we'll be there beside them to help them to do that. And if they don't, then we will speak on their behalf.
So it's almost like a liaison type thing in a way, that you're a bridge between the person and all sorts of things, really.
Absolutely, we are that bridge. But that bridge, we're more weighted on the side of the client. Our loyalty, our only loyalty, is to the client. And I think some professionals struggle with that, because sometimes, we're challenged about, but you've seen the medical evidence, but you're still saying this. Is that your opinion? And I'll say, I don't have an opinion. It doesn't matter what I think or what, it's what matters is what the individual wants.
When you get referrals, I guess, from medical practices and things like that, and different people, I suppose your workload is massive as it is.
Yeah.
But if somebody, for example, knew somebody who they thought was in crisis and needed your kind of help, how would they get in contact with you?
We've got a website, Lomond and Argyll Advocacy Service. There's a referral pathway on that website, so all they need to do is put in a few details. That automatically populates our allocation list, and the Western Martinshire Advocacy Practice Lead monitors that and keeps an eye on it, as does our office manager.
So you kind of an independent organisation then?
We're totally independent.
As opposed to a government organisation?
Yes, you can only be, you've got to be psychologically, financially and structurally independent to call yourself an independent advocacy organisation. So the umbrella organisation that we are a membership of is called the Scottish Independent Advocacy Alliance. Right. And they are very clear. They set the standards and practice and the code of conduct, and we all work to those standards.
What brought you into this kind of work?
Well, years ago I worked in social work. I worked down south. I lived in London for many years. And to be quite frank, it became, way back then even, an impossible job. You were damned if you do and you were damned if you didn't. You would meet someone in need and you would go off to try to get them the services that they need and the additional supports, and budgets prevented that happening. We then decided that we would move further north. We had an 18-month-old daughter, and I popped into the advocacy service in Dumbarton to make a referral for someone and found out there was a job and applied for it and got it. That was 22 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a 12-month contract, and I thought, I'll try this for a wee change.
And has it been quite satisfying in a way, helping people get through all the obstacles and things they have to get through? How have you found it quite a rewarding thing to do?
When you get a success, it's very rewarding. The present climate is very difficult, and I say it's difficult for professionals as well. They have very tight budgets. I wouldn't want to be a social worker today practicing. But when you get, I always tell my team, hold on to the little successes, because rarely does a big success happen just because of maybe somebody's illness or lack of funding, lack of resources or whatever. But a lot of the feedback that we get from clients is, I didn't get what I wanted, but I felt for the first time ever I've been listened to.
Okay.
And clients often feel things are done to them rather than with them. Right. Our job is to ensure that their voice, they're part of the process.
You stand side by side.
Yes, and their voice is heard. Yeah.
What about, you were talking, I think, before we started, about prison releases and things like that.
Yeah.
Prisoners coming back out into society again. You're helping with that a bit as well. We
had funding for a 12-month pilot project.
Right.
Unfortunately, that funding has been stopped. It was only in Argyll and Bute. And so we worked with people that had been in, or were in prison and due for release. And the point of it was to try and mitigate recidivism. Because that's quite a common issue. Somebody comes out and maybe in a couple of months later they're back in prison. But what was really quite stark about that experience was the number of people that were in prison that had serious health issues, serious mental health issues, trauma. And that was a real eye-opener, because our experience told us that although they should have had support, whether that be rehabilitation, back into the communities or healthcare, very few actually got the healthcare that they needed. And I have to say, I felt that in terms, especially within the context of the crisis that we have in our prison service these days, perhaps some of these people would have been better treated and better serviced by referring them to specialist psychiatric care.
You would think when people are in prison, there's an ideal opportunity to work on them a bit and help them a bit, rather than just lock them away, forget about them. Bit strange to hear that.
I think it's just indicative of the state of public finances these days. Budgets are constantly getting cut, and clients, and I don't blame them, don't want to hear that. That's not their problem. They are in crisis, they need help, and they're not getting it.
Everywhere struggles with finance and things, I guess. So what's the future for you just now? What are you involved in? We can't tell us specific things, but Are you happy to keep doing the kind of work you're doing just now?
Oh, absolutely. It's very varied. I manage a team of independent advocates, and that's quite a diverse group. And we're always learning. As long as I'm learning, I am hugely interested. And as I said, you know, no 2 days are the same. People come to me and they ask me questions. And then every now and again, I'll get a situation, an issue, and I've gone, oh, I've never come across that before. Okay. We'll go and see what we can source and find out about it.
It seems to me you're going to have a vast experience and behind you, and given all the things you have to deal with, and have dealt with. Where do people get in contact with you if they want to get in contact? You said you had a website.
We've got a website and they can refer there. We have a telephone number. We are on the High Street in Dumbarton, but it's by appointment only, because we don't have the levels of staff to keep it, to have an open doors policy.
What's your website name?
Lomond and Argyll Advocacy Service.
Okay, that's fine. Well, listen, Caroline, thanks and for coming in and giving us a glimpse into what you do. It sounds like it's really worthwhile stuff, so thanks for coming in.
No, thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of Real People. Thanks again for listening and watching, and until next time, bye.